Today I'm going to walk you through some quick OSINT techniques, show you the magic of OSINT, the power of what data can do in solving crimes, mystery, you name it, whatever. There's a lot of use cases for this. I have 25 minutes. I'm going to go over 2 real cases that I solved, and I'm going to show you my thought process on how I did it. The first one is a romance scam. And this was an executive that reached out to me. And she was concerned that she may have been part of a scam. So what I did was I take all of this information that you see here, that's essentially OSINT, and I look for information across the internet and try to tie the pieces together. So in this case, the initial piece of information that I had about the scam was there was a dating app she was using, and she was dating this guy, and this is the picture of the guy. So she gave me all of this through like Signal, and I started putting everything together, documenting it on a mind map like this. She gave me a name, and very quickly I started searching Google image searches, reverse image searches. I didn't find anything. And then I searched for the name, and I wasn't really getting any hits. She did the same, and she's like, yeah, this guy is not on the internet. I'm like, red flag number 1. Like, if you're not Googleable, yeah, it's probably a scam. So if your privacy goes way extreme in one direction, people will start questioning it. So you need to pretend normal on the internet, and this person didn't. The second thing I did when I couldn't find them, I asked for more information. I'm like, send me all the images, every link that he sent you, every email, because that's all small pieces of evidence. So she started sending me pictures, and she started sending me the phone number he was using later on. So they started chatting, they started calling each other, and the phone number was a voice over IP phone number. So I'm like, all right, another red flag. Normal people don't use VoIP numbers. People like me do, but I'm not normal. And then during conversation, context is important. So she spoke a little bit of German, I believe. So she spoke German. So the guy said he was from Germany, and she's like, no, I can speak German, and your accent isn't right, and this doesn't sound like a native German speaker. And he sounded more French than German. So this was her red flag. She's like, yeah, the accents don't match up, the backstory isn't aligning. And then he's like, let's move this conversation to a better platform, and let's move it to Teams. Like, when was the last time you heard somebody say that? Let's move the conversation to Teams. Like, to me, that was it. That was the biggest red flag. I'm like, who goes on Teams? But anyways, they started chatting on Teams for whatever reason. And the whole thing was the start of a romance scam, because this was related to dating, this was related to emotions. And he started saying keywords like, I'm falling for you every now and then, I love you, and I'm like, that's too soon. You've only been talking for a few weeks. Love doesn't work like that. But eventually I started hearing more, started writing this down. He said, oh, he worked for some Turner construction. I looked it up. That didn't exist, or it was just too generic. And then he started, like, within 3 days, he's like, you're the one. I'm like, all right, that's a scam. Nobody says you're the one within the first 3 days of meeting someone. And then it went on for a couple of more days. He sent more pictures, so more evidence. So she sent me this picture. He's like, I work at a construction company, and this was a stock image from somewhere. I'm like, yeah, this isn't a real picture either. And he was working in Abu Dhabi, he said, so I can't really talk. And after a while, all those things didn't make sense. And I asked her, I'm like, you think this is a scam? Like, no, that's why I'm calling you. I'm like, so I started thinking, I'm like, people get emotionally involved in these things so well, in romance scams, that they can't think logically anymore. So I had to put this together to kind of prove to her that, no, these things are not adding up. And then he started, I call it the pity party. My mother's in a nursing home, she needs surgery. I'm like, aha, that's where the money part comes in. And then he said, no, I don't need money from you. I have money. I'm just not in the US right now. Can you log into my bank account and send me money to my other bank account in somewhere else, whatever? I'm like, that's pretty odd. And she's like, why? She's like, I need to pay for the doctor. And I can't. I'm in a foreign country and they ask for payment up front, which is a lie, obviously, but she didn't know. So people use foreign countries for that because there's a huge question mark in it. So I kept asking more questions, and eventually it came to domain names. So I said, give me an email address. What was the domain name of that bank? So I looked at the bank login, looked legit. It was called easycombn.com. And she did transfer $10,000 from that bank account to another person's bank account. I'm like, so now you're an accomplice to all of this. And I'm like, I wanted to see where this was going. It was going on for weeks. And then I looked up the domain name on hooksy.org, which gives you some historical context as well. And on hooksy.org, it showed that a Gmail address was associated with a bank. I'm like, that's not normal at all. And then also it was registered in Nigeria. There you go. Anything in Nigeria at this point is a scam. And then also another third red flag was it was registered 1 year ago. What kind of a bank registers their domain 1 year ago? So all these things, I'm showing her this as facts. I'm like, look, this is not normal. This is a scam. Believe me when I say this, keep emotion out of this. And then I started looking at more things. I'm like, all right, what's his story? He's like, oh, I'm afraid for my life now because one of my tractors went upside down where I had an accident in Abu Dhabi, and I need to make another payment for this, and the bank needs some ID and stuff. So she started doing stuff on his behalf. I realized this is a romance scam, but it's also a money mule scam. She's asking him to send money to someone else. It was all mixed up, and I couldn't really understand it very well because hearing it from a third party, half the things were being made up. One of the things that was being made up was, I'm like, did you see the guy? You sent me his pictures. Like, yeah, I spoke to him, but we had a video chat as well. I'm like, okay, so he is real. He's not someone fake generated from the internet because I can't find him. She's like, no, he is absolutely real. I spoke to him on video. I'm like, did you see his face? She's like, no, I saw his feet. I'm like, what? Oh. She's like, yeah, he was walking on the beach and his camera was pointed down on his feet, so that was a video call. Like, no, so you didn't really see him. So in sales, they say the customer is always right. In OSINT, you say your client is always lying. You need to verify it. You need to ask questions in different ways because they think, oh, we had a video call, but I think, no, you didn't have a video call. It was heat. So then I looked at more emails using a Proton email. Again, I use Proton for my business and personal use, so it's not really a scam, but a lot of scammers also use it. And then suddenly the email changed to a different simple com bank. Again, 1 year ago, registered domain. So all this forensics I was doing was again and again showing that this is all technically a scam. The emotional side was harder for me to kind of understand. But then it was like, she started telling him that I think this is a scam, I think you're fake. And she's like, you'll never get money from me if that's what you're after. So she started confronting him. The moment she did that, he deleted everything. All that evidence that was there, the website went down, the email was no longer registered, the Teams thing was destroyed, and I had no more evidence to work with. So I had only the stuff that was in her emails lying around. So quickly he deleted his entire presence and moved on to someone else. Scenarios like this happen a lot. For us tech-savvy folks, this is pretty easy to understand. But for executives who are not tech-savvy, they're targets to this all the time. So my goal was to put this together for her, and I took her permission to present something like this, and she's like, no, more and more people need to know how to dissect a scam like this so that they don't fall victim to this. So this was a lot for the non-tech savvy person. And I put this together. This is the same mind map of how I operate, all the evidence. But I was curious. I'm like, who is this person? Scam is uncovered. So I started reverse image searching this image. And I'm like, I need to figure out who this guy is, whose picture was stolen for this scam. So I tried pretty hard. And this is me unedited. I just fast forwarded this a little bit. But this is how I was trying to see who this person is. I looked at the clock at the back. I looked at his face, some facial recognition websites, used so many different tools from Google, Bing, TinEye, PimEyes, and just trying to find that one hit somewhere. PMIs does reverse image search, so I was having problems here with VPNs, so then I switched VPNs, then CAPTCHA after CAPTCHA, and a lot of problems. I wanted to show you all the problems I go through when I do something like this, and I didn't skip anything. I kept going, and a lot of CAPTCHAs, but I'm not gonna give up my OPSEC for something like this. So I kept trying. Eventually I found this, and I found similar images of the guy. I'm like, yeah, this is the same guy in different poses. He doesn't look like a celebrity or someone who may have a social media profile. This looks more like a reporter to me. He has a big mic, he's in the back of some of these images. I'm like, he's someone who's not very popular, and his name may not be online. That was my intuition. But I'm like, let me find the source of this. So I kept looking more and more, and I was starting to look for other things, like the background. Let's geolocate him. Where is he? Then I found this image, and finally at the back it said something. I'm like, all right, I need to find these two garbage cans or whatever they are at the back. And then suddenly they wanted me to pay for this. I'm like, I'm not paying for this stuff. I'm a hacker. So I looked at the code. I looked at the class that was making this blurry. Then I found that class, and then I disabled that class somewhere here. I went on it, and I double-click, delete this one, lock, and then I kind of found out the name there. So I don't pay for stuff. I bypass these things. So, and then I figured out whatever was written, it was in Spanish. I don't speak Spanish, but it doesn't matter because there's Google here. I didn't even need to translate it. I was just Googling different versions of that with spaces, without spaces, with a website. And I finally found images that looked similar to the background image of whatever that was. I was working so fast that I didn't have time to kind of understand what's going on. I just wanted to know where that image was taken. So I started looking at multiple videos. And this is honestly how this is done. When you're desperate for investigations, you want to find everything. And right up there, I found that same garbage can. Those things and that, whatever that is, not a donation box or something. Like, all right, I found the location at least, not the person. So I did more searches on that location. What is that place? What is that donation box? It's in Spanish. And then I started looking at videos of where that was taken. A lot of videos that I had to go through, but I'm just going through the icons, thumbnails, and somewhere eventually I found the exact image, clicked on it. I'm like, all right, he was standing here. What was he doing? And I keep going on and on and on. Different image searches. And this is, again, all unedited, live. And then I found that exact same image here. And in one of the, I believe, related images, you found that guy right there on the right. That's the exact same image. It wasn't even a primary image. It was a related image on the right. So you have to click through a lot to get to that. Now that I found that image, that was part of a YouTube video. Now I go into that YouTube channel and that YouTube video, and I was right, he was a reporter. And then somewhere here, his name pops up when the reporter starts to talk. Manu Garcia, right there. I'm like, cool, now I have a name, finally. I can figure out who this person was. Then I go back to the drawing board and search for the name, Manu Garcia. And football player comes up, soccer as they call it here. And like, I still found the guy pretty quickly. And then I found his X account, his LinkedIn account, his Instagram account. Everything started to kind of fall in place once I knew his name and face. And I got to the source of it. I actually contacted this guy through all of his social media one by one. He replied to one of them, I think LinkedIn. And that was the clock in the background as well from this image. So I told him, someone's been stealing your images from this website, from your page, and scamming others based on you. And he wasn't really interested to kind of talk further. Language was a big barrier as well, so we kind of dropped it there. At least I knew who he was. And as I was going through some of his images, somewhere I find here the exact images, and then he's with another guy there, and he was gay. So I told the lady, I'm like, even if it had worked out, I mean, it wouldn't have worked out. So She's like, oh, damn it. So she actually got excited. She's like, oh, I can talk to the real guy. I'm like, I have bad news for you. So that was kind of my journey on how I found this person. It took me 15, 20 minutes or more, maybe half an hour, but I was determined. So you need to be determined, try everything. Like Google wouldn't really help, but I had to try 100 different things to kind of find him. And that's how I keep sharp in my skills. This wasn't something that's serious. But my second example is, this was given to me as a challenge by some magician friends I have. They're like, do you know this guy? I'm like, no, who is he? Apparently he has 2.7 million followers on Instagram and over 1 million followers on YouTube. He's making a lot of money with videos by ripping off other magicians' videos and revealing their secrets. And these magicians make legitimate income with their performances. They write books about these things, and he's breaking the magician's code. I'm not into magic that much, but these were my friends, and they're like, well, you said you could solve any challenge. We've been after this guy for years now, and we have no idea who he is. He has really good OPSEC. He makes a lot of money out of so revealing other people's hard work and their secrets. Can you figure out? I'm like, sure. Took me an hour to unmask the masked magician. And this is a 5-minute video of me showing how I did it. So I started looking at all of his videos. One by one, I think I looked at over 1,000 videos in an hour. I just kept scrolling over and over. The way my mind works is I was looking for something that stands out, something that's the odd thing out. He had an email address in there, so I looked at the email address, and all I was finding was the same official social media channels. I'm like, all right, his Gmail address isn't really getting me much. But I still looked at YouTube, Instagram, started looking at where did he make a mistake. All I can see is his hands. No face, no body, no nothing, no tattoos. I was looking for something peculiar about him. Like, everyone makes a mistake. He must have made one too. I started looking at details. It said Italy down there. The channel was from Italy. So I'm like, all right, I found at least country. So he's from Italy. So the more you dig deep, the narrower you get. That's kind of the goal here. There's this website called EPOS, where you put in a Gmail address, it shows you your Google reviews or Google Maps. So I'm like, let me try to see if he had any Google Maps reviews. And as I did that, I started looking at breaches. There were no breaches against him. So then I started looking at Google reviews. Click on it to find maybe he reviewed some restaurants in the area, but unfortunately nothing. So I was getting failure after failure. I'm like, these techniques usually work on normal people, but he's taken the time to delete his presence, at least his personal life, from the internet. So I started doing some Google dorking, and with the same email I said, minus site : YouTube, minus Instagram, minus all the social media, because it was coming in the way. Then I went on Linux. I have some deeper tools that can go into where does his accounts exist. So this tool, Olihi, what it does is takes a Gmail address and says, this Gmail address was used to register for accounts at certain websites like Firefox, Office 365, and Twitter. Now in Firefox, I can't really find much information. Twitter, yeah, maybe, maybe not. But Office 365 with a Gmail account, I'm like, that's odd. I know you could do that. And I also know there's a trick to that. So we do a password reset. I found a new email, but it's redacted. So now I know there's a second email I can look for. I do a different version of a password reset, and it's his phone number ends in 66. All right, I'm getting closer. Still not there yet. I have a few more tricks up my sleeve with scenarios like this. One of the tricks, which you probably didn't know, was if you share a file in Google or in Microsoft OneDrive, and so I shared a file folder with him without sending him a notification to the Gmail address that he had on file. It shares it with him, and you hover over it, and it shows a name, Mago Dominique. That's the name he used to register for a Microsoft account with a Gmail address. That's a technique I knew of. It's not very publicly known. So now I have a name. That information leaked somewhere. Now I search for that name on Google, and I find this guy who claims to be Mago Dominique. He also is a magician. And Mago in Italian, I found out, means magic or magician. So his name is Dominic or Dominique, whatever. So I'm like, all right, this guy has that name. How can I connect this to the masked magician? Is he really that guy, or is he just some other magician? Because it's a very common name. So now my task was, here's two different individuals. I need to find something common. So now I'm working for a very narrow goal. So I look at this guy. Another thing you should know that's going through my mind is I'm going through this very quickly. I'm looking through his entire life so that I have a snapshot in my head, because I'm not going to remember this after a while. So I'm looking at the umbrella, I'm looking at these glasses, I'm looking at the curtains at the back, his mustache, and you know, the tiles on the floor, the frame of the door, the picture frame at the back, his hands, I'm looking at how fat his fingers are here, because that's all I can see on the other side. So now I have a visual. I see, you know, what his floor looks like. There's a flower pot in the back. I'm like, all right, this is the guy's house. Can I see elements of these things in the magician? Now I quickly go to this guy and I go over a couple of 100 videos very quickly, and I'm looking for that stuff. And I find the same tiles at the bottom. But again, tiles are white. They could be anything. Not good enough for me. So I go through a lot more videos, as you can see. I fast-forwarded the heck out of this. And somewhere, eventually, something catches my eye. And that's why I do this really fast when I'm doing live OSINT, looking at the wall, looking at his YouTube stuff. And finally, he reveals himself, but he's mocking me. So I take this very seriously now. I look at all other similar groups that he had, and looking at his hands, I'm like, I'm going to get you. This is getting too much now. I've never worked this hard. At the back, I see the wall is always white. But here I see the floor, and I see the flower pot. I'm like, hey, I've seen that flower pot somewhere. This magician has it, and also this guy had it on the right, the Mago Dominique guy. That's the same flower pot. There's no question in my mind at this point that this is the same guy. And feel free to applaud. This took me a while. I was sitting on my computer and I was like, yes! And my wife was like, what happened? I'm like, I found him. She's like, who'd you find? A criminal? I'm like, no, it's nothing, whatever. It was personal achievement. And now that I found him, I was connecting the dots. That guillotine there is the same guillotine the magician also uses. These glasses there on the left that Dominic uses, the magician had the glasses on the thing up there. The exact same thing. Everything was just falling in line now. I'm like, well, I never saw this before. So the guillotine, the glasses, the plant, the frame, his phone is there. Even here you can see the plant on the top right. I think I'm going to zoom in a little bit. I never noticed it before, but if you zoom in here, the tiles are the same. And somewhere here, there's a flower pot up there. Now I notice these things because now I know what to look for. It's amazing when you unlock one little thing from like a Microsoft account and then a name, and then suddenly little things start tying together. I was looking for his computer, desktop. Maybe he left some clues there, but he didn't. But I'm like, I'm pretty confident at this point that this is the guy. And then I do some research on the original Italian guy. He left an email address there in something that ended with .it. And then he had breach records with his date of birth in there, his phone number. So this is the real guy. And then I correlated it with the date of birth with the magician, because he had a YouTube post that said, it's, you know, my 51st birthday, happy birthday to me, blah, blah, blah. So I got his day, month, and year from there, which correlated with the same full date of birth with the other guy's breach records. And then the funny thing is, he had the audacity to write this post on Facebook saying, you know, congratulations to me, whatever, I worked so hard, and that I had to overcome some stuff. We managed to overcome pages and profiles that were using my videos and identity without my consent. Wow, he was copying other people's videos and trade secrets and revealing to everyone else. But I was pretty excited when this happened. And I made, you know, the comparison here. These are basically the three things that allowed me to prove that this is the same person. Everything tied together neatly, perfectly. And then I realized there was another trick up my sleeve. I should have just sent him some money. You go on PayPal, take the original email address that I always had from step one and start to send him money, PayPal will tell you at the bottom that his name is Leonardo Cimienti, which is the same guy. His name was Dominic Cimienti. Middle name was probably Leonardo. Man, I could have done this in like 30 seconds versus... But again, there's so many tricks up my sleeve. I have to do it in sequence one by one. But there's many ways to get to the answer now. And then this was that guy, Domenico Cimienti. He goes by a few different names, but this was the guy in Italy. Once I found him, I found the city where he was in. I did a little bit more research. I made this little mind map of all the things that connect to different things together. So this was my magician on top, the unknown. At the bottom was my suspect and everything about him. And the lines that connect between the two prove that these are the same person. So I always make mind maps like this to kind of prove my point and to look at the bigger picture. But at the end of the day, when this is satisfying work, it's a lot of work. OSINT has a lot of potential. You need to look at everything, do your due diligence. There are so many places to find information online. And if you do this right, do this professionally, there is no reason for you not to find answers. I always tell people that give me enough time and I will find them. This is using hacking as a mindset for investigations. So unless you didn't know before, my name is Mishaal Khan. I'm an ethical hacker. My background is very technical on the networking side, on programming. I wrote a book, The Phantom CISO, as well. I'm going to have a book signing tomorrow. And this is what I do for fun. This is what I do for a living. Thank you so much.